Welcome to the journey of CyberLogic, a guide through Final Fantasy XI, Episode 3, Rank 1, Sandoria. Now this series will cover the travels of CyberLogic as he progresses through Vana'diel. Now this series will show new players how to get to endgame content using the game's current systems. Now in our last episode, we had just finished getting access to 3 Trust in our party and Unity. We just passed roughly 2 hours of playtime and we're level 13. In this episode, we are going to work on advancing our level and rank by doing Sandoria Rank 1 missions. While working on the completion of Rank 1.2, we ran across Swampfisk here, which we made quick work of. He dropped a Geolong staff, which will allow us to level our staff skill while we work on these Rank 1 missions. Now I also made sure to grab the RoE quest for Swampfisk before killing him to complete that quest objective as well. It's always a good practice to check the NMs of the zones that you pass through while completing quests and missions, as during these initial 99 levels, those NMs that you kill will largely be your primary source of gear. Now our quest on mission 1.2 takes us through King Ranperre's tomb. I changed my FOV objective to a GOV objective at the book shown here to get some extra experience on the way. As you can see, to complete this objective, we need 3 bat kills and 3 goblin kills, which we will get on our way to completing the main objective in this zone, which is finding the gravestone. Now on the topic of RoE objectives, you want to make sure that you're completing as many of them in the game as you can as you work through it. So the ones that you should be completing already are, first off, there is another daily objectives quest that you need to kill multiple enemies. You can get this every single day, and every time you log in you should go ahead and grab it, as it will allow you to get more Unity points and experience. Now all these other ones I'm going to list are only one-time only quests, so after you complete them once, you won't be able to complete them again, but it's good to get them out of the way here at the start. The first 2 of these are underneath Combat General. The first one is to deal 10 to 20 damage, and the other one is to vanquish multiple enemies 1. In addition, also under Combat General, is Total Damage 1, Total Healing 1, Total Damage Taken 1, Weapon Skills 1, Undertake a FOV Training Regime, and Undertake a GOV Chaining Regime. In addition to these RoE objectives, you want to undertake the objectives for the zones that you're traveling through. You'll notice that I just completed the King Ranperre's tomb objective by killing 10 mobs in this zone. You want to be sure to do this as you travel around Vana'diel to complete these objectives and get yourself more experience. Here we are finally at the gravestone that we've been looking for. Sadly, it's not the right time as we need dingbats to be around. So I choose to go ahead and log off for the day, and when I sign in the next day, who do I find here but Spook and the dingbats that I need. Spook is a notorious monster here in King Ranperre's tomb. So we go ahead and take Spook out first, and then our dingbats to get the necessary drop we need of the Orcish Mail Scales. We are using Valenril, Tenzen, and Millie for my trust at this early stage for a good mix of durability and damage. Now you want to be sure to use different weapon types for your particular job, as well as continually casting magic if you are a mage casting job while you're in battle, as it will lead to that skill getting much higher, and then things related to that skill will then naturally become more powerful. Now that we've taken out Spook here, we'll go ahead and kill dingbats until we get that drop that we're looking for. We can then head back to Sandoria and trade it to one of the guards at one of the gates for mission completion and to move on to mission 1.3. There is the item we were looking for right there, a handful of Orcish Mail Scales. Now let's go ahead and head back to the castle and trade them in. Now once we trade in those scales, we will see the ending cutscene of mission 1.2, and by speaking to the guard again, you can immediately start the mission 1-3, which is the final mission of Rank 1. Now mission 1.3 will take us to one of the 3 starting Beastmen strongholds in the game, Gelsba Outpost. In this zone that is completely packed with orcs, you need to find this boy who has been kidnapped by them. Fortunately, you don't have to go too far into the zone to find him. Now before we get to that point, you need to head to the cathedral in northern Sandoria to make sure that you get the second cutscene before heading out to Gelsba Outpost. Now by this point in your adventures, even though you're only roughly 2 hours into the game, you should be level 13 to 16, and at this level, all orcs inside of that starting zone will read as either easy prey or too weak. Now, easy prey enemies will only reward you with a small amount of experience, and 2 weak enemies will not award you with any experience, so be sure not to waste your time fighting these weaker foes when you get to this zone. Additionally, if they are too weak, they will not attack you, so you don't need to worry about working your way around them. However, if you do see enemies that are easy prey or higher in difficulty, almost always those beastmen will attack you, so you want to make sure that you steer clear of them unless a fight is what you're up for. Now let's take a quick minute to talk about maps, as I have not mentioned maps so far in this series. Maps in Final Fantasy XI are extremely important, and there is one to each zone. Pulling up the map will allow you to more easily navigate that zone. Now, many of these maps used to be quested, which made getting them kind of time consuming, but these days you can simply purchase them from a starting NPC in any of the 3 starting cities. In Sandoria, I get mine from Violittle in southern Sandoria. Make sure you stop by and pick up maps to locations you are heading to, such as King Ranperre's tomb and Gelsba, before heading out. Another topic we've not talked about yet in this series is jobs, so let's go ahead and spend a few minutes now on that to make sure you have an understanding of how the job progression works in Final Fantasy XI. There are 6 starting jobs that you have access to when you begin the game, which are Warrior, Monk, White Mage, Black Mage, Red Mage, and Thief. You can pick any one of these 6 jobs and it will be your starting job up until level 30. Now at level 30, you gain access to an additional 16 possible jobs. Now each one of these is unlocked through a different quest that you must complete once attaining level 30. Also note that some of these quests and the locations for their quest givers are in some of the further reaches of the game, so it may be a challenge for your level 30 character to get some of those jobs you want once reaching there. But fortunately you have your trust to help you out, which usually will make the situation more than doable. Another thing I'll point out is leveling these jobs really does not take that long if you use the right strategies, so don't feel yourself limited to just 1 or 2. You really can level as much of them as you want. On my primary character, I've had all of them at level 99 for over a decade now, and enjoy the freedom of being able to try different strategies with different jobs when new content comes out. Now here in Gelsba Outpost, finding our kidnapped boy does not take long. If you simply head up the ramp to your right, you will come to a large hut that our boy can be found within. Now click on the door for this hut and a cutscene will ensue, and then you'll be able to enter the tent and start the fight to get the boy returned to your possession. Now sadly, this is one of the first areas where I realized just how much trust had changed the game. Now I'm not going to say this used to be challenging back in the day, but it definitely used to be a fun first major fight to the end of your rank 1 missions. However, as you're about to see, by simply adding trust to your setup, this fight is entirely trivial, regardless of whichever of the 6 jobs you chose when you started the game. After seeing just how easily this went, I'm making the decision that in the rest of my playthrough, I'm going to go ahead and try all of these BCNM battles their traditional way, without the trust first, to see how it goes. And if for whatever reason I struggle and determine that a party setup is necessary, i.e. a trust setup, I'll go ahead and include them and mention that in the video. But otherwise, I think it's important that I show how it is we used to play this game, as frankly now I'm seeing with the use of trust, the majority if not all of these mission fights are going to be beyond trivial. Now let's go ahead and examine this battle example just to show you how lopsided these trusts make it. Now, granted I'm only using a lowly onion knife, but as you can see I'm only doing 5 to 15 damage per hit with it. However, my trusts are hitting anywhere from 30 to 70 damage per hit, and that includes my white mage. So really when it comes down to it, I'm only doing under 10% of my total damage output. This is definitely not the way it is endgame. Endgame, trusts are normally doing, all combined, less than 10% of your total damage output and are largely just used for buffs. So this shows you the big difference that's going to take place between the way trusts are used now and the way trusts are used in endgame. That's why I've gone ahead and made the choice not to use them for the majority of this level 1 through 99 play. But know that you're going to have to make that personal choice for yourself, and if you're choosing that the game is more enjoyable with them, feel free to use them on these boss fights. After we've finished the fight, as you see here, just click on the door again for one last cutscene and to be visited by Prince Trion. Now let's take a minute to go back to that topic of the 6 starting jobs and discuss where each excels. The first is Warrior, which is a tremendous damage dealer and user of all the weapons in the game, and is one of the most useful sub-jobs in the game. On that topic of sub-job, let's quickly talk about what sub-jobs are if this is your first time playing Final Fantasy XI. The sub-job quests can be attained at level 18. Once you have done it, you will always be able to equip a sub-job, which will be exactly half of the level of your main job. This sub-job will give your main job access to all of the traits, abilities, and spells that job would have at that level that is 1/2 of your main's level. We will be covering sub-jobs in detail, both the quest and how to use them, in the next episode in this series. The next starting job we'll talk about is Monk. Now monks have very high hit points, as well as they do great damage with their fist. This, combined with a healing trust, makes them pretty unstoppable at this early stage in the game. Now the third starting job is an interesting one. It is Thief. Now thieves are great at doing single blow damage while using sneak attack or trick attack, but they do not do anywhere near the damage of Monk or Warrior. Instead, they have great evasion, and they also significantly increase the drop rate of any mobs or bosses you are fighting. This treasure hunter trait is why you will find most people leveling Thief even though it's not their main, as they will end up using it to farm the things that are necessary for their main job. The fourth starting job we'll discuss is Red Mage, the one that I chose for this particular playthrough for my starting job. Now Red Mage is a jack-of-all-trades job that can use many weapons and spells in the game, but not all of them. It is a very versatile endgame job that can take on and solo much of the endgame content. The fifth starting job of the game we're going to talk about is White Mage, which is the main healer of Final Fantasy XI. Now, in previous iterations of the game, it required that you needed parties in order to level White Mage, as frankly White Mage just wasn't strong enough to handle it themselves. But now, with the advent of trust, it is quite easy for White Mage to progress through the game while simply using their trust to do the majority of their damage until they themselves are able to take over that responsibility. This brings us to the sixth and final starting job, Black Mage. Now Black Mages are powerful magic users, but very defensively weak. Because of this, it used to be very difficult for you to progress them through the game solo. However, very similar to White Mage, now with the advent of Trust, it has become quite the fun job to use Trust alongside with, so you can do things like Magic Burst off their skill chains. Now here we are, back at the Gate Guard, getting credit for our mission completion, and granting us rank number 2. Now at this point, I'm just going to finish up with the bonus cutscene for rank 1, and then sell some of the random goods and items that I've farmed on this trip for Gil so that I can purchase the spells that I've unlocked now that I am level 17. Now I've largely spent the little amount of Gil that I've gotten thus far all on spells, completely neglecting any weapons or armor, and just using weapons and armor that I've achieved from RoE objectives, as well as chests that I've farmed throughout the world to supply me with all of my upgraded weapons and armor. If you started with one of the 3 mage jobs, this is a good way to go. However, if you started with Thief, Warrior, or Monk, make sure you upgrade your primary weapon for them as you level, as that's going to be your primary source of damage. That'll be it for episode 3 of the Journey of CyberLogic. If you have any suggestions of something I can do to improve this series, please make sure to suggest it down in the comments section. And to be notified of when these new episodes come out each week, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy out there.